Coming up on episode 122 of Creative Writing, I'm talking about planning in reverse.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hello and welcome to Creative Writing, and welcome to 2018. It took me a little while to get back into the podcast, but here we are. And if you are new, this is the podcast for writers, bloggers, and creatives who want to build an online platform without being smarmy, which is to say that we want to connect authentically with our audiences. We want to write things that people care about, and we want to care about our people. I am really excited to be here today. It feels good to be back. My inclination is to want to make like a really high-pitched squeal, and I did it really softly for you because that doesn't translate well to audio. I don't want to blow you guys out in the eardrum area with my excitement, but I am very excited to be back and recording podcast episodes, even though I am really kind of stressed out thinking about the podcast this year. I'm in the midst of planning, and if you guys listen to past episodes and subscribe to my email, you know that I talked about planning in a 10-month year period where December is kind of family and anything else is a bonus. And then January is really just a time to plan, not to kick things off, because it's just so hard to plan in December, and then you start January feeling behind, because if you're like me and you have kids at home, they're not in school till today. All my kids are back today. And a lot of you guys have snow days. So you have kids at home and you might be even missing your regular 9 to 5 because of inclement weather. So it's really hard to start January 1st. And then there's kind of that sense of starting off the year as a failure. So in any case, I'm in the midst of my planning right now, and I have a super amazing tool. If you are not in my Facebook community, if you're not on my email list, you may not have seen this, but I'm going to give you the link for it. I'm so excited. It's createifwriting.com/2018 planner. And every year I have put out a free planner, I guess for the last 3 years, it's very epic. It's like, it's going to kill your printer. You might want to send it to Kinko's. There's only one color page, which is the cover, and you can ignore that. I had to make a cover. It's pretty, but you cannot print that, which is what I did. And there's actually 2 separate documents. When you go there to createifwriting.com/2018 printer, you will be prompted to sign up for my email list. And if you're already on my list, you probably have an email in your inbox with this, or you can head over to the Creative Writing Facebook group, which is createifwriting.com/community. And there's also a post on the blog where you can find all of this. I will link to it as well in the episode show notes, which will be at createifwriting.com/122. So there are lots of ways for you to get the planner, but I'm in the midst of planning. I just printed it. And I think about my plans while I am actually writing the planner, and then I sit down and write it out on paper like a good nerd does. And and there's also an Amazon version. So if you want it on a Kindle and then want to write things in a notebook, I have that as well, and we'll link to that in the show notes. So if you don't want to print the thing out, if you don't want to send it to Kinko's, there is a part you probably will want to print out where I have some like calendar pages and things like that. So there's actually 2 sections. All that to say, I'm doing that right now. I hope you are doing that, and we're going to talk through that. But as I have been letting my ideas simmer in January, which is how I like to think about it, and really they were simmering in December. I wasn't planning, but I was thinking about this year and what is to come and what has happened in the past year. My ideas are simmering, and the podcast is one of the things that takes the most amount of work and is really hard to do because I rarely have a quiet house. My parents are babysitting our youngest right now, Piper, who's just over a year. I only have 2 days where everyone's in school, and nighttime, I have just been so exhausted lately that working at night has been really difficult. So the podcast has become more of a challenge, but I'm going to try batching my content, which means today I'm going to be actually recording like 4 episodes, 2 at the least. I'm going to do 2. That's the goal. We'll maybe ease into batching here. So I am thinking about what's working and what I want to do this upcoming year, and the planner is going to walk you through that. So I want to talk a little bit about actual planning as we kind of head into the year. And if you guys are looking at the planner, I will be doing some live videos in the Facebook community about planning and kind of going through specifically this planner. And you don't have to get the planner to find this episode useful. So just keep listening. If you're like, I'm not going to download that thing. Okay, great. You can do that. You cannot download it, but let's talk about how to plan. And just to be clear, this year I expanded the focus. In the past, I've called it a blog planner. And I feel like so much of the time, I'm not talking specifically just to bloggers anymore, where I think when I started out, that was much more of my audience. And I think a lot of bloggers might actually have an expanded view of who they are and what exactly they do. So it's kind of more of a content creation. And even though it seems like a broader term, I think it's a little bit not less targeted. I guess I feel like it's in some ways more targeted because I'm allowing you guys to kind of think about yourselves as beyond, as something else. Not that there's anything wrong with being a blogger, but I think a lot of us, the blog is not necessarily the primary thing. The blog used to be my primary thing, and it's not now. It's a part of everything I do, but it's not my primary. And so the planner is going to walk you through your blog creation, your email creation, your social media, your books that you write. And it's not going to go into super specifics on some of the things. Like I think you could have a whole planner just dedicated to getting your books written for the year, for example, or even a whole planner just dedicated to specific blog posts. But this one is going to help with all of those things. And this is going to help you guys, this episode, I think, plan whether you get that or not. But I am talking about content in general, goals in general, creative people in general. So let's get started. And I wonder how many times I say the word planner. Do not make this episode a drinking game where you drink when I say planner, because you would be passed out on the floor already. So one of the things I want to say first, as you sit down and start thinking about 2018 or any year, if you're listening to this and it's 2020, hello from the past to you in the future. If you're listening to this, whenever you're listening, before you can actually sit down and really make goals and plans and resolutions, whatever you want to call them, you need to kind of know how you work. And I think this is actually way harder than it sounds and way more complicated. I feel like at 40, which is what I am now, which is insane. That sounds like an age, I don't know. I still think I'm in my 17 or 22-year-old brain sometimes. So in my 40 years, I am still getting to know myself and how I work. But I'll give an example of what I mean specifically because I think it'll help. In college, my final year, my senior year, I was an English major the whole time. But in my senior year, I finally figured out how I worked best in terms of writing papers. I mean, I wrote papers constantly. But what I learned my senior year is that if I wrote my paper and finished it like ahead of time, and not way ahead of time, we're not talking like a week, we're talking, the paper's due Friday, maybe my final draft is done Wednesday night or Thursday morning or even Thursday afternoon. I wrote faster and I wrote better. Editing took less time, everything took less time. Whereas those times where I left the paper, and it's not always procrastination, sometimes you just had a lot of work and it had to go last, but the times where I was finishing my paper the night before it was due, it was really a challenge. And what I found was that I was staying up really late. I would end up getting like mentally stressed out. I would be up till 4 a.m. It would take me double the amount of time. I would have these crazy frantic breaks where my friends and I would go walk over to 7-Eleven and buy like Diet Mountain Dew and Twizzlers to keep us going and then crash us with sugar. And that's just how it was. I didn't write as well. I didn't have time to edit. I felt frantic in my brain. Whereas when I was writing and giving myself more of a cushion, that pressure was off and I was able to do it. And the weird thing is this. So that's an example of figuring out how I worked, but I also work well under pressure. So again, I'm still trying to figure out how this is, but I'll use another example for you guys. In December, I decided to write some fiction under a pen name, and I'm going to have a whole episode about that coming up this month or soon. And I decided, okay, it's Christmas. I was using KDP Rocket, which is a tool that I have a paid tool that helps you see what people are searching for on Amazon. I'll leave a link to this in the show notes. It's a paid tool that Dave Chesson from Kindlepreneur created, and it's fantastic. So as I was working on finding keywords that people were searching for to kind of update an Advent devotional that I have up on Amazon, I kept running across the fact that people were searching for Christmas romance stories, Christmas romance novels. And I thought, the number of searches was astounding. And I thought to myself, man, if I could write a Christmas romance, there's people searching for that. Now, there are also a lot of people writing that, but it got my wheels turning. And because I was taking off of everything else, I thought, well, what if I write a Christmas story? And what if I just publish it like tomorrow? What if I make it not a novel? Because I probably can't finish a novel in a week, but I bet I could do a short story. And so I did. And I actually created two. I created a Christmas one called 4 Days at Christmas. I think it's at Christmas. No, 4 Days of Christmas. I should know this. I wrote it, but prepositions, you guys. So 4 Days of Christmas. And this was under my pen name, Emma St. Clair. And so I published this and promoted it and did some promo work, and then created a second story with the same characters called 3 Nights at New Year's. See, there's the at. And put both out. I grew a Facebook page of just over 100. I barely did much work there, but Facebook is really hard to grow, and it's got some really good engagement on there, even though there's only 100 people that like it. I also grew an email list to, I think it's now at over 100 in that time, and sold a bunch of books. I made a couple $100. I got a bunch of reviews, and I say made, but I did pay for some promos. I did come out on top, like I made money, but I'd have to sit down and crunch numbers, which is not going to happen right now. So I had a time crunch there, and I was able to do it, and I was really excited. And maybe the difference is it was my deadline that I was working towards, not a professor's deadline, going back to the paper. So anyway, this is all to say that we all work differently, and you may work in a way that requires you to plan differently. So you need to think about that. And in the free planner I created, there are a couple places where I have different kinds of pages. So visually, it helps you to look one way or another. Then you can do that and print the page that makes sense for you and work on that as you're looking at your schedules. We all work different ways. The better you know yourself and how you work, the better your plans are going to be. So as you start out, you need to kind of be thinking about this. And if you've never thought about it before, maybe make some observations. When are you stressed out? When are you most excited? When does the work come really easily to you? Whatever your work is that you're doing. Make notes of those things and try to kind of consider them. Do you work with music on better? Do you work at home better? Do you work better in a coffee shop? What exactly is your style? Do you write by hand? Do you want to type? Can you type on a laptop or a desktop? Does it matter? Do you want to sit on a couch or a hard chair at an office desk, standing desk? You get the idea, right? That's a lot of options for you. Figure out how you work, and then start to actually plan. So in talking about planning backwards, which is what a lot of the planner will walk you through. And again, if you're not getting the planner, I'm walking you through it right now in this moment. Working backwards basically means you're working more intentionally. You're looking at where you want to go and then the steps it takes to get there. So the first thing is when you're making your goals. So if you're going to look at, a yearly goal, and I might get more specific and give you super specific examples for this. But if you're looking at your end goal, then you can say, okay, that's the goal. Here I am at point A. The goal is point B. What are the steps that it takes to actually get to point B? So for an example of this, if you wanted to get to a certain number of page views per month on your blog, okay, so say you're at 5,000 page views per month right now, and you want to get to 50,000. So that's like 10xing. You have to think about what does it take to get there. And there's usually kind of two ways. And this covers a lot of the content when we're talking about creating content. And I'll go into books in a second and share how this works there. But it either is going to mean ramping up and scaling up what you already have in place, or creating more content and promoting that, or both. So you're either ramping up what you have or creating a lot more, or both, but it's definitely going to involve promotion. So that's one of the things that I hope the planner will help you do, because promotion, I think we all struggle with it. We just wish we could write things and people would come, the field of dreams style of things, and it doesn't work that way unless you're epic at SEO. And so If you are, then you might actually write it and they come. But still, there's the work on the back end of you figuring out the SEO things. Unless it's an accident. I've had some accidental posts that did amazing on SEO. Like I kind of planned, I didn't keyword research, but I planned out keywords in it. And, I have a YouTube video that has like 30,000 views, which is insane. And it's about painting walls. And so nothing I'm even interested in talking about ever again, but I SEO'd that really well and it worked. So that's the only way people are going to find it and come. So if you want those page views, you've got to think about, okay, how many posts am I writing right now? What platforms are actually sending me traffic? What can I do to ramp those up? Can I go back and make my SEO better for these posts, which is going to bring people in? Can I share more pins on Pinterest? Can I do more on Facebook to get people in here? And it may be diversifying those things. It may be working a little bit at all of those things. And then how much new content can you create? Would it really help if you created 5 new posts a week? Or is that going to create a promotional nightmare for you? Think about this, and you may have to try it first. Like maybe you need to take a month where you're like, okay, I'm going to test this out. I'm going to write 5 days a week in the blog and promote the heck out of everything and see what that does. And maybe instead you try one really epic post a week and promoting that and promoting the heck out of that and see what that does. So that's kind of a way of working backwards. Thinking about books. Let's take books as an example. So this year I'm in the midst of planning and I'm still simmering with my plans, which high five to all the people who also said this week that they are still kind of simmering and easing into January and into 2018. But if I want to write a certain number of books right now, don't freak out. I think I want to write 8 to 10 books this year. So let's work backwards. How many months are there in this year? 12, because that's how many months there are in every year. So if I want to write, say 10 books, that means, especially if I'm working in my 10-month year, I will be writing basically a book a month. What does that look like? Okay, let's work backwards from there. Writing time. How long does it take me to write a book? Well, fiction is different than nonfiction. Nonfiction, I could crack out pretty quickly. This planner, I actually decided to go ahead and put it up on Amazon because I can. I'm going to make it perma-free on there. But it was, and there's a lot of questions. There's some blank space in here, but this was a final product of almost 100 pages in a Word document. So, it's pretty meaty and it took time and planning. But I knocked this out in a week or so. I can do that. What does it take in terms of getting a cover designer? Well, this one, I designed my own cover. And I really want to stick with the branding my cover designer had, but I don't, because this is a free product, I did not want to invest in that. So I just did my very best to match the fonts and branding and went ahead and made my own cover for this. But if you're using a cover designer, what's their wait time? Some of them have really long wait times. Some of them on Fiverr, you can pay more and it'll be done tomorrow. You need to plug in how much time it takes you to format, how much time it takes you to write your blurb and do all of the back stuff, the keyword research if you're doing that, picking your categories on Amazon. All of those things take time. So you kind of have to work backwards. If I want to write 10 books a year, then every month, and also launching, right? Launching takes time. So if I'm going to be that ambitious, then I need to actually sit down and write down, okay, this month is dedicated to this book, the writing and everything else. And it means I need to get my cover designer the ideas now if I have them, so I can work in advance. And so I'm not sitting there like my book is ready and then you're waiting on somebody else to complete their work. So you need to think about the time that it takes, all the different moving parts, and then plug it into your year. And as I'm talking about this, I'm like, 10 books is way too many. So it'll probably be 8. So that's still a lot. But nonfiction, fiction, and I've got several already started. I have a nonfiction book I'm going to be putting out hopefully at the beginning of February. And I want another fiction book from Emma St. Clair out in March, if not before. And it's already, I think I'm 50 or 60 pages into that one. So, hard at work. There's already things in place. I have another fiction book that I'm 50 pages into as well. Because just like with reading, I do a lot of projects at one time. And that's how I work because that works for me. You might be so stressed out hearing me say that. And that tells you, write it down, that you don't work that way. You need to have one project and complete it and then move to the next. If it stresses you out that I have 3 books that are currently incomplete that I'm working on sort of at the same time, sort of. One's going to go ahead of the other, so the others are on pause, but I have written on all of them. In December, I started writing all 3 of them. So I started writing 3 books in December, completed 2 other short stories and something else. If that stresses you out, great. that tells you something about yourself. Calm down, slow down, don't go at my pace. You need to go at your pace. So these are kind of the essentials of working backwards. And in the planner, you have also a really important sheet where if you're trying to make money doing this, which I think is such a great goal, making money doing what you love, there is a whole section on reverse engineering your income. And so what that looks like, I just talked about time because we have to think about time, but you also have to think about money. So if I want to make, I didn't make a lot in Amazon last month, a couple $100s. So if I wanted to make, say, $2,000 a month instead of a couple hundred, then I need to look at the books I currently have for sale, think about how I can ramp them up, and then how many more books can I add to get me up to that number I want to be? What does that actually look like in terms of book sales per book, per, cost? Because some of them cost 99 cents, some of them cost $4.99. What would that look like to mix that up to make those sales? And then that's going to help me reverse engineer the income the same way we just kind of reverse engineer the goals. Think about the goal. What are the steps to get there? And that really makes it a lot more manageable. If you're thinking, oh, that sounds really stressful. No, it isn't, because if you want to write a blog post a week, that's 52 blog posts. While that sounds like a lot, if you actually sit down and write down ideas, chances are you could fill up half of those idea slots right now. If you're like me, I keep a notebook on me at all times. I also have Evernote docs on my phone and just the Notes app that comes with standard with the iPhone I have. And I'm constantly plugging in ideas in there. And so I probably could, I have like 20 posts I want to write just for creative writing. And I don't know when I'm going to have time for those, because right now I know my goals, some of them, generally speaking, and blogging is not a huge piece to what's going to get me to the income and audience that I want. It's going to help, but it's not the biggest piece. And so those are kind of on the back burner. So these are the things you're thinking about as you're working backwards. And it's hugely helpful to do it this way because it makes things seem simple. So if you're breaking it down into a blog post a week, that's 4 blog posts a month. That's not so bad. Okay. Right? That sounds really manageable. And if it sounds stressful to think of 52, then think of them in 4s. Okay. This month, I'm going to write 4 posts. What are they going to be? What kind of images do I need? What do I need to get to write there? And then if you're batching things, which means doing them all at one time, then you might actually knock out all the writing in one day. Maybe later you'll go back and edit and tweak, add in the links. Another day, maybe you'll do the images, or maybe you can knock it all out in one day, depending on your time and how quickly you move. So breaking it down and going backwards really helps it be manageable. So once again, if you want to see all of this in print, you can go to createifwriting.com/2018 planner. And again, I'm also going to put this in the show notes, which is going to be createifwriting.com/122. And a last thing that I want to say is, as you're trying to make these goals and work backwards, it's really important, I think, to get some outside perspective. And I want to share an example of something I saw in a Facebook group as we close out that really made me sad and also frustrated. So there was someone in a writers group that I'm in, and they were saying how frustrated they are. They're not making what they want to make, and they have X number of books, which it was a pretty significant amount. And they invested, I don't know, it's like thousands of dollars into advertising, and they made thousands of dollars, but they weren't in the black. So it was like maybe they invested, $10,000 and made $7,000. So there was like a deficit of $3,000, and they're asking what they could do. And in her post, she said, but don't tell me it's the covers, because that's what everybody says. And I thought to myself, why are you asking what you can do? Because there is your answer. If everyone is telling you it's your covers, then it's your covers. That's something really valid that you need to think about. So I think sometimes we hold really close to some things and decide we don't want to change them. And I think her response was that it was about money. Well, I can tell you what, there are ways to bootstrap the heck out of stuff. And I know those ways. Maybe that's another post coming up, how to bootstrap these things as you're just starting out and you can't invest, and obviously she has the money if she's investing thousands of dollars into advertising and promotion, whatever she was investing in, but she did not want to invest in the covers. And that was the one thing everybody kept saying she needed to invest in. So you need to be willing to take a hard look. And that may mean changing some things. You really need to listen to what people tell you. And that does not mean you have to do it. Because again, your goal might be to do something you love. Maybe your goal isn't to make money. If you just want to publish books and you love it, great. Don't worry about your covers then. If you want to make money, you need to worry about your covers. You need to worry about that criticism, and not worry about, but take it to heart. If everyone is saying one thing needs to change, then change it. So you need to go in willing to let it sting a little bit, go sit and cry in a corner for, an hour and then slap yourself in the face maybe. That's something that sometimes works for me, literally or figuratively. But get yourself out of it. Say, okay, I wallowed in that, hurt that I have, that people don't like my covers, or they don't like the way that I'm writing, or they don't like my story, or they don't like my main character, and then get in there and fix it. If it's important to you, if it is something that's going to move you toward those goals, you have to be willing to hear it, respond to it, and fix it. So that's where I want to leave you guys today. As you're planning, think about how you work backwards, and then ask people and be willing to take to heart the things they say. If those things are valid, and if everybody is saying it's your covers, then that's valid. It's your covers. And then you need to be willing to get over it and do what it takes to reach those goals, even if it's something that kind of makes you sad. If you love your cover, but everybody hates it, change your cover. Everybody hates it. You can frame the one you love in your room and look at it every night before you go to bed. Oh, sweet cover that I love, but it's not going to make you any book sales. So that's where I want to leave you guys. It's so good to be back, which is weird because podcasting, I'm doing it alone in a room, but I'm imagining those of you guys I know listen and talk to me about listening and interact with me. I'm imagining you out there as you are listening. So I feel oddly like we're connected, even though right now I'm just alone in a room, quiet room, but I'm glad to be here alone in this room, also with you, alone in the room with you. So thank you guys for listening. If you love the show, please tell a friend. If you love the planner, tell a friend. You guys can be and are actually the best evangelists and promoters of my work. I've seen a lot of you guys promoting and people coming into the Facebook group saying their friend told them, which I love. Thank you guys for that. But send them over to Creative Writing, send them over to get the planner so that I can connect. And if I'm somebody that fits well with them and they gel with the way that I present material, which is off the cuff and no BS and maybe some laughter here and there, then they'll stay around. And if not, that's fine too. Thanks for being part of the community. If you're not already in the Creative Writing community, get over there, creativewriting.com/community to connect with other amazing people just like yourself as we all go on this content journey together. I forgot to change my last tagline. Okay, I'm going to come up with a new one by the next episode, which should be easy because I'm batching this and it'll be in 10 minutes. So we're going to come up with a new ending. So until then, goodbye. You'll hear me next episode. Peace out. Peace out, Stump. That's not going to be it. Okay, I'm just going to say, and cut.